and so in progress. I don't think that ever stops, but at least for the early part, again, we have an opportunity that for the third year in a row sign top class in the conference. But first, before we get into that, I'd like to thank all the people that were involved in making that a reality. The staff itself, but besides the football staff, everyone in creative, compliance, strength and conditioning, recruiting, development, academics, the trainers, so many people on campus, catering. I mean, the amount of effort and time that goes into preparing everything from unofficial to official visits is really, it takes a lot of time and effort, and really grateful to have awesome people that really just bust their tails to make sure that we provide a first-class experience when people come to campus here. But again, that being said, obviously a busy time. So much talk about the class, but I'll leave that for questions to answer. And again, it's kind of continuing to grow and grow, and will continue to grow through the second signing period, and of course, through the portal period strategically. So that being said, questions please.
Mario, I know we're here to talk about the class in the future, but I have to ask you about last night. And anybody can make an argument either way. I get that, I respect it, but the Louisville wins and the Duke wins just seems like they were just discounted for you guys, just because they're not in the arbitrary top 25, whether they're 26 or 28 or 30, this seems to no longer matter. How have you processed everything you've heard in the last 20 hours, I guess, as far as the explanations as to why?
Yeah, sure. Still processing, you know, and there's confidence and trust that people will process and give consideration to what is real. Like you mentioned, there is a 28 and a 26 in there, and there's a reason they go all the way to 30 and 35 sometimes, and that was discounted or not really mentioned. Neither was a 4-2 road record against bowl-eligible teams as opposed to a 1-3 record. No one brought up the data points of the simplicity of watching film, right? Fourth quarter, you know, Alabama, South Florida, 21-16. Fourth quarter, 5 minutes left in the game, Miami and South Florida, different score, you know, or a crossover game with the SEC, which we know what that result was. So that and so many other things have come up, and hopefully things will continue to be reviewed and considered so that the things can be done justly, because it's exponentially harder to win a 10th game during the season than there is, you know, an 8th, a 9th, whatnot. So, and winning, as we keep hearing, winning is important, so hopefully that'll be considered.
How have you balanced today versus, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of questions from the guys on the 2024 team. What now? What do we do now?
There's not many questions. There aren't many questions. You know, we were disappointed with our last game, but we're disappointed because we've raised expectations at the University of Miami, and there's a lot to be proud of in a 10-win season, but we wanted 11 and beyond. And we're going to get a chance at 11 coming up in some way, shape, or form. And that's what the focus is on, you know, to accomplish something that hasn't been done in, I don't know, 24, 23 plus years. And not knowing, again, what Sunday may lead to. Again, because I'm very, I trust that, and I have confidence that things at the end will be viewed the way that they should be viewed, and who knows how that thing's going to work out.
You said last week that your goals are always top 5, top 10 recruiting classes, and depending on which survey you look at, right now you're between like 12 and 14-ish. I know you have your own evaluations, and I'm sure you like the guys that you brought in, but just what got in the way, or what made it difficult to get that extra level?
Well, we chose not to sign in the 26, 27 range. I think that plays a huge role into it, because that's an accumulation of points as well. It is a top class in the conference right now, and we filled our needs through the high school ranks at the areas we feel we need high school players, and we're also looking at certain parts of our team that need portal players. So that's where the balance is. And
speaking of the portal, I know it hasn't opened yet officially. Just what are some of the, I know you want to upgrade it everywhere you can, but what are some of the target positions that you're looking at for portal upgrades?
Well, I'd love to fill you in on all that stuff, but strategically, it's something that we don't do. We keep airtight and we keep in-house. You know, we certainly don't want to allow our recruiting strategies to be assessed, analyzed, or used against us in any way, shape, or form. So I think it's important that we trust a process that has proven that's taken a team from 5 wins to 7 teams to 7 wins to 10 wins in the regular season, with a team that's competitive in every outing that we have had. and a future that is bright because we have recruited well at the high school level. You know, we're not a team that was strictly portal driven. We have really good high school players at every position that are developing and are doing well. And as you study the landscape of recruiting and just roster management, the portal is more active than ever, has been more active than ever. So you prepare to gain, you prepare to lose some, you prepare to move some on, you prepare to bring some in. But all in all, you make sure you're doing right by these young men and their families, and always doing right by the University of Miami and doing everything possible to continue elevating the program.
You've always had the reputation, going back to when you were on staff here, a lifetime ago, that you've always been an accomplished recruiter. People have said that for a long time. At your other stops, they said the same thing, of course. How has it all just changed in the portal era? Like, is it as simple as just identify talent and go get it, or is it not that simple anymore?
No, it's not. I mean, there's money and there's access involved, and that changes everything, right? And you have the responsibility of being resourceful, and you know, sometimes it comes down to, I don't know, sometimes teams get outbid. You know, price points go to a certain range where that's become part of the game. I don't complain about that. It is what it is. It's different. It's completely different, but it certainly it creates advantages for those that can supplement, you know, the recruiting efforts with certain resources, and then it hinders those that don't or can't or that won't. Relationships still play a key role in the whole thing, and then there's some, you know, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, and it's very different than it was first starting in this thing. And look, there's a lot of things that I don't love about the way things have gone in terms of football and the evolution of all these different things. But I love football more than I dislike all those other things. So we just pour into the things that are important to make sure that, again, we could do right by our guys and keep elevating the program. And so they can be better people and better future providers and fathers and husbands and members of society because of what they've done in our systems.
I guess what I meant to get in there was commitments are, I mean, the word commit is somewhat misleading there because it is non-binding.
Right.
Does it kind of work the same way? I mean, guys always flip, you go one way or another, you win, you lose, something that it's happened forever and it's going to keep happening. Do you find that it's a higher percentage of those commitments not really being solid in the NIL era?
Well, I know that when we got here 3 years ago, if I have this right, you guys might have this information. I believe there was a 5 to 6, 7 year span where there was, I think, 70 decommitments, that's a pretty high number. So we felt the one thing we had to do was, hey, we have to have minimum a 90% hit rate. Meaning that if we're going to lock into a guy, they're going to lock in. That's what we're going to do. Now, locking in means the guy has to play to a certain level as the season goes on, do the right things on and off the field, and sometimes we have to move on. And sometimes you get a surprise call, and you usually sense it when something's going on. So you try to keep, obviously, the ones that you want. It's a marathon. You go, and you keep those to the bare minimum you possibly can. Hopefully 0. If you have attrition of 1 or 2, you're probably on the upper tier in terms of retention of your commitments.
Speaking of guys who've been locked in, Luke Nickel, being the longest running commit in the class, not really never wavering or anything like that. Just, what do you like about him as a player, and what do you like about him having been like a kind of a leader in the class, I guess?
Well, I'd like to say a couple things about him. Offensive Player of the Year in Georgia, right? Goes to Elite 11 with a sprained ankle, absolutely lights it up. State champion, competing for another state title now. Top 100 guy, complete winner, and a great identification by Coach Dawson because he didn't have much attention. We brought him over here to camp, a lot like a guy like OJ Frederic, and he just lit it up, and he has like that moxie, that personality, that aura about him. Great leadership skills, hard worker, accurate, tough, can move. You saw a guy when he came down here and played against some of the South Florida teams. He's a real one, and you know what? When your quarterback hangs in there like that, it does a lot for the rest of the class.
I wanted to ask you about SJ as well. I do know a little bit more about offensive line than most people, obviously. What is his 2025 potential, do you think, that he comes in?
He's one of the best players I've seen in high school. And by that I mean explosive, like powerful, nasty. Nicest guy ever off the field, on the field, complete horror. And just absolutely tries to rip you to shreds. Comes from an unbelievable program in Bishop Foreman. Elijah Lofton, was there as well. And I know he's ranked as high as top 10 player overall of the top 100. He's, I don't know how the services go, but he was always just like a Luka guy that, hey, he's a must-have guy. And great family, hard-working family, really physical, really smart, and he intends to come in here and make an impact. And the guys on the team know him. They've seen him a bunch. Obviously him and Cece hit it off really well. So yeah, he does it all, man. He does it all, and can't wait to see him.
Can you just talk about the rest of the offensive line classes? They're a bunch of big bodies, functional athletes. What do you like about that group?
Love the group because it's very versatile, size, athleticism, power, explosiveness. I would say these guys are like what we look for in offensive linemen. The two real big guys, and Jaden and Demetrius, length, athleticism, almost like those ginormous power forwards that you find and make the transition over to football. They've got great balance and body control. They're heavy-handed. They move their feet well. They get their heels in the ground. Usually big guys kind of tip over. They're on the tips of their toes, and they have some ankle flexibility issues. Not these guys, And then moving on to Max Buchanan, just an absolute stud. Just a physical, nasty, versatile. Right, can play outside, can play inside. I mean, he does it all. The right temperament. These guys all hit it off really well, which is important for us because that position in the secondary, those guys got to play as one, and these guys are